Hello, this is Johnny Cycles with CyclesGaming.com, here with a wrap-up for my Gruul Dragons deck, featuring Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer, and Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Overall, we went 1-4 in our league, in our friendly league. We played 4 of our 5 matchups were against Tier 1 decks, I would say. We played and lost against Is It Murktide, Crashing Footfalls twice, and Yawgmoth, and we beat a Asmo food deck with Inti in it. Um, you know, let me just say right off the bat that I was not too impressed with Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Ragavan is Ragavan, and he did his Ragavan-y things especially with the hierarchs. We had a couple games where we were able to attack with him as a 4/3 on turn 2. Not saying we won those games, but we still were able to do that. So the package of Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer with both sets of hierarchs is a powerful strategy, early game strategy that can put our opponent on the back foot, and especially if we can follow it up with a questing beast or a dragon, we can close out games pretty well that way. I've played that combo before, so it's not new to me, and it's not unfamiliar. So I'm not surprised at that synergy there and how powerful it can be. And Ragavan's always a great draw. Well, that's not true, but he's very powerful, best one drop in Magic. So yeah, it's not going to hurt your deck to play Ragavan for the most part. Fable the Mirror Breaker, though, I was overall pretty disappointed with it. It's a great card, don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's great in this deck. And I said it along the way as we played, in part because, excuse me, and also I'm trying out these new headphones, so if there's some weird sounds, that's me covering the mic for various reasons. Anyway, I said it in some of my matches. It kept us off a turn. So let's say we get a turn 2 Fable out. Turn 3, we make our 3rd land drop, and we have a questing beast in hand. We can't actually cast a questing beast on time to attack on turn 3. We have to attack first with the goblin and hope to get the attack in to get the treasure token, to then cast a questing beast after combat when we don't get to attack with it, and we give our opponent a way to answer it. The power, the synergies of this deck, the way we actually win games is getting in the beats the turn we play these threats and hoping our opponent doesn't have an answer. But even if they do, at least we got our hit in, and that, we get a couple of those hits in. Even if they find one answer or 2 answers, their life total is so low that another dragon, another hit, and they're dead. And Ragavan, we saw a little bit of the same thing. You have to get the treasure as a ramp spell. So you get a hit on turn 2, and then on turn 3 you can play the questing beast. So that's better than, because you can attack the turn you play at least off the treasure token of Ragavan. So obviously that's going to be better. But with Fable, it doesn't synergize. The same thing with the dragons, right? Turn 4, you make your land drop, you have 4 mana, but you need that 5th to cast a dragon. You need to attack first with the goblin to get the treasure token, then you can't attack with the dragon. So the synergies, it's just, they're not there. Obviously, being able to filter your draws, let's say, or filter your hand, I guess, if you have a bunch of lands, discard the 2 cards to draw into some action is great. We had, I think, one game where we were able to discard some lands looking for action. Most of the time, though, we only really saw Fable in the first couple of matches. After that, I don't think I saw Fable a single time in the 3 matches after that. I did sideboard it out in all of them, though. So it's 3 games that we played after the first 2 matches. Didn't see Fable a single time. In the first couple matches, we saw Fable a lot, and we saw the good and the bad, mostly bad. We were able to pitch some lands to try to find some action. I don't think we found the action, but at least there was a chance. And the other times, even when we got down on turn 2, we had what we wanted already. We had the lands, we had the dragons. We didn't want to pitch dragons in hopes to draw lands, because then we wouldn't have the dragons to cast if we drew the lands. So I think with a deck like this, with 5 drops and 4 drops, Fable just isn't at its best. We don't really want to pitch the cards in our hand unless they're lands. And even then, we're often trying to make our lands. We're a mana-hungry deck, so we're often trying to make our land drops. So I think the experiment of Fable in this deck, in this current build, I don't think it's worth including. I'm glad I didn't shell out the money for it way back when it was like $50 just to play it in my Dragons deck and realize it sucked. That's not to say it's a bad card. Obviously, it's a great card, and it's really good in certain decks, and I just don't think this is one of them. Questing Druid, I like this card a lot. Bone Crusher Giant, man. I'm so glad I finally got around to putting it in my Dragons deck. So powerful. The 2-for-1 is great. A little bit, the more spot removal is super powerful. A bigger threat, great. It did its thing in this deck too. And with Questing Druid, for this, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but for the 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop spot minus Fable, our deck ran really well. It felt almost like a Modern Horizons 2 deck. We were very efficient, did multiple things in a turn, saw some synergies, and if we were able to follow all that stuff up with, let's say, a questing beast or dragon, we won the game. And we didn't win many games, though, to be honest. But we were, that was some of our best plays and some of our best turns. But the match we did win came on the back of what we would have done with our other Gruul deck anyway, ramping into big questing beast or dragons and winning through combat. So I really think that the changes here with Fable and Ragavan are not, although anyway, I'm repeating myself, which my wife will tell you I do a lot. So I'll try to stop. Back to Questing Druid. I like the card. I'm going to keep testing it out in my Gruul Dragons deck. I do think it has a spot. And it certainly has a spot in Modern. In a Jund deck or even whatever Gruul deck you want to play. Or Sultai or something like that. Not Sultai, but Teamer. I can see it being played. It's a powerful card. It's a fun card. It has some sweet synergies with the other cards in your deck. It can get big real fast. So I do think it's definitely modern playable. So overall, again, we went 1-4. A little bit. We had some really good games. We were close in a lot of games. We played some of the best decks in the format. We played against opponents who, like the Cascade decks, just always have the 2 Cascade spells. We played against opponents who had not just 2 answers, but 3 answers. So we definitely played against some hot running opponents playing the best decks. So I feel like if we were run this again, like most of my Dragons decks, if we were to run it through another league, we might go 2-3 or 3-2. But I do think that's probably the ceiling with a very rare outlier of a 4-1 or possibly a 5-0. So yeah, again, Dragons are never going to be tier 1. That's not why we play them. But if you're interested in playing a Fable of the Mirror Breaker deck, I would recommend playing something like that's janky, I should say, a Luca Surprise deck. Lowering the curve of this deck, making it more Gruul Adventures perhaps, or the Jund Adventures deck that I've played on camera before that I'll keep playing. But I wouldn't put it in your Dragons deck. All right, well, that's it for now. This is Johnny Cycles with CyclesGaming.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.
This is Johnny Cycles with CyclesGaming.com, and this has been another edition of Dragons and Modern. Be sure to go to my site and check out all of my original Magic the Gathering content, where I post articles and video of my janky modern brews in my commander decks. I'm also publishing a couple chapters every month for my science fiction fantasy novel called The Pod Kind. Check me out on YouTube as well. Click that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it, and I'll catch you on the next one.